Can you tell I'm excited? Happy Friday and Saturday to some of you who are watching this or will be watching this overseas. I'm Phillip Ryan Block, and you have tuned into episode number 28 of the Open Heart Collective. My guest tonight is a individual whom I've been excited to get on the show for quite some time now, Mr. Hayden Lincoln Hayder. Now, I have to say your name in three because I have I go by Phillip Ryan Block. So it's funny when I have another three-person or three-name person on the show. So, anyways, Hayden, introduce yourself.
So I'm a British-based entrepreneur. I'm an actor and a producer. So I also have a film production company. I run a restaurant in Leicester. It's been open just over a year. I've had multiple companies before the restaurant. I had a fashion company, a supplement company. I also run a property company at the moment. So entrepreneurship is probably my biggest strength and what I'm most experienced at. But I do have experience in the film industry too. So I do have a big creative side.
Nice. So if this is your first time having caught an Open Heart Collective episode, I want to give you guys a little bit of history on the mission behind this show. So about 5 years ago, a colleague of mine and I had this concept of we were going to create this online interactive book. This online interactive book would be where I could go in and write my story. You could go in and write your story. The guy 2 doors down could go in and write his story. Teresa in Italy could write her story. All with the purpose being, or the mission being, my story is may not resonate with you, but your story is going to help someone else. More recently, I've back in March, I was going to do a month of mental health awareness videos because alliteration is fun, right? March, month of mental health, all M's, it works. But it rapidly became more than that because in the first episode, I identified that I was actually going to need to do this more because mission of mental health can't be just accomplished in 1 month. The stigma around mental health is so vast, which is odd because we live in this culture and society, regardless of whether you're in England or in the US, where we always have to be on the go. We always have to be doing something. We're in this entrepreneurship culture of hustle 24/7, work 20 hours a day, don't sleep, all that nonsense, all that rhetoric that we hear every day on social media. But it's odd because the one thing that we are historically not on the offense for, in positive momentum for, is our own mental health and the mental health in the communities and the people in the communities around us. So the Open Heart Collective exists for this purpose, to identify and have open, raw, real conversations about mental health. That being said, Hayden, I want to know a little bit more about your story. Give me Hayden's story.
My story is I guess it's quite complex. I struggle.
Well, we have an hour, so take as much time as you need.
Okay. Well, I struggled in school, secondary school. My parents were getting divorced at the time, and I was getting into a lot of trouble at school. I was quite rebellious, and I honestly, I had a difficult time abiding by rules throughout secondary school. And I think it's not necessarily because I was a bad kid. It was because I just felt like things should have been a different way. And because like teachers were the authority figures, there was a little bit of a clash. So I ended up eventually getting kicked out of school. And I think it's just because the vision I had was different to what the teachers would try to instill in me. I think from an early age I was destined to go down the business route. So that's I mean, there's so much to explain. So,
Like I said, my man, we've got time. So the why we do these episodes live and why I don't really do any editing to them in post is because, and we were talking a little bit about this before we started, is me as the content creator, and I'm not even the content creator. I'm the narrator at best. I'm the facilitator for stories. So who am I as a facilitator to determine where the end listener deems value? So talk. I mean, it's your story. I mean, I want you to feel completely comfortable, completely safe to go into as much of it or as little of it as you feel comfortable with. So take all the time you need, my man.
okay,
I mean, if we need to break
thank you.
this up and it lasts an hour and a half, cool. I've got nothing but time.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Um, so, I mean, I struggled throughout school. I eventually got kicked out of school. I was setting up businesses around the time, and there was a time when I hit like 16, 17 where um, there was a need for me to prove the teachers wrong because uh, it was a difficult time in school, and the teachers honestly told me that I wouldn't amount to anything, and I still remember a lot of the teachers' words just clearly, and that began my fuel to succeed. So I went to college, and my only goal was to create a lifestyle or a level of success where um, I guess it was a way of proving the naysayers wrong. And I ended up becoming student president at college, got some amazing grades. And just when everybody thought I was going to go to university um, because I was doing well academically, I decided not to. And I took a massive risk. I set up a fashion company of my own, a menswear brand. And that had so many challenges. There was so many ups and downs with that business. I was staying up late at night um, on the phone to manufacturers from Turkey, China, India, and it was a long process of doing sketches, sending them off, getting the sample sent back. 50% of the time, the samples were wrong. So it was a really challenging thing to do while all my friends were at uni, partying, having fun, and there's me on my own, just trying to make a business work. So that was my first venture, um, and then I opened several.
Let's talk a little bit about that. So you were staying up late. You sacrificed friendships. You sacrificed the partying. You sacrificed life as a young male, right?
Yeah,
All for chasing that dream. Now, you said 50% of the time samples were coming back, they were wrong. I mean, let's tie that into mental health. Like when somebody's not, or when the end result isn't what you want it to be, that had to play with your emotions a lot. Would that be
yeah,
accurate?
100%. Um, I think choosing a path that isn't that common, like entrepreneurship, there is a lot of elements of anxiety, depression. There's great times, but there's also bad times because in
All you
entre-
want to be entrepreneurs out there, there's a lot of bad times.
there's terrible times as an entrepreneur. The thing is, there's no security. Um, you
I
have
want to have
to.
one interjection with that real quick. There's no security in anything, right? You could wake up and go to your 9 to 5 job tomorrow, and the doors could be closed. The building could be burned down. Your job be cut because of some offshore development. Like, don't think that security in the traditional sense exists because it doesn't.
Yeah, I hear you. I know what you're saying. Um, so I guess choosing a path that isn't that common, um,
Right.
it can get become a lonely road. pursuing your dreams on your own. And I guess certain friendships fade, you know, as people grow up, they go a separate way, you go a separate way. So there's a lot of elements of grief and tough times as an entrepreneur, and it's quite amazing how on Instagram, on Snapchat, all over social media, it's become very sugar coated, as if it's this perfect scenario. There's just sports cars and lots of money and women everywhere, but there is a real dark side to entrepreneurship, and I think it's healthy to talk about because it can help a lot of people.
Well, and it's interesting too because a previous guest, Rowan Bradler, fellow UK native, she she had actually made a comment that I don't remember the exact statistic, but most males under the age of 30 who also happen to be entrepreneurs in the UK, their top, I mean, the top cause of death was suicide.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it's a staggering statistic when you think about it, and that's what we just know about, right? What about all those people we haven't heard of?
Yeah.
For me, it was I'm an entrepreneur, and I've done so much on my own. Thankfully, I have an incredible team now that's we're small but we're growing, and but oftentimes still it's me at home alone in my basement at 3 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out how I'm going to make this work. And I'm pretty strong-willed and strong-minded, but even I get deterred. And honestly, the last couple of weeks have been a big test of my mental health because I've been going through a lot, and but I still have to push through because being a bit of a beacon of light for people, it's hard to have darkness when you're forced to be light for so many.
Yeah.
So let's parlay that into you. You're a vibrant personality, my friend. Like I don't know how we got connected. I don't know where it came from, but I'm so grateful that we did because honestly, I mean, you're an inspiring human being with a great story, and it's always interesting to learn a little bit more about the struggles that people have gone through. So let's just continue on where we were with that.
Something you said just reminded me of a quote that I really like. It's stars can't shine without the darkness. Um, so I guess where were we with my story?
You were in uni, 50% of your product was coming back not right.
Oh yeah, that was a very, very challenging time. I come from a family where
And we were tying in mental health to entrepreneurship. That was the other.
So I come from quite an academic family. Friends and peers always seemed to go to university, landed professional jobs, and to say I wanted to become a fashion designer out of the blue, not go to university when I had the grades.
Oh.
I guess it shocked a lot of people, but I was very blessed to have the support of my immediate family. I think that was a major help to have my family support me. I guess with regards to mental health, having a positive friend circle and family around you can help you move closer to your goals and just keep your mental state a lot happier. So I think
Right.
the people that you're surrounded with is a big factor in how you feel on a day-to-day level.
Right.
There's been times where sometimes I've let a bad apple in my friend circle, and maybe months down the line you realize that it's the wrong person in your life. I'm thinking of maybe one or two girls specifically.
I mean, personal relationships, though, there is so much mental health tied in with personal relationships because oftentimes you're so focused on the other person and keeping them happy, even even though rational adults or rational human beings know that we have no control over somebody else's happiness, yet we focus so much on the control aspect of other people's happiness that we sacrifice our own happiness. And that is a problem, a very large problem, especially around relationships. Continue. I'm just altering lighting.
Okay, sure. So yeah, I guess that's something I've learned over the years. Protecting your circle and the people in your life is, I think, is essential on the path that I'm on. Oh, and to keep a happy, positive frame of mind.
Right.
So, I started making money out of the fashion company, and then
how long did it take you?
It took a very long time. There was a ton of failure in that business.
The reason why I ask is because there's going to be a lot of entrepreneurs in your circle and mine that catch this, and I want them to know from you. They all know how long it's taken me. I want them to know from you how long it's taken you.
Okay, so with my fashion company, I made it in maybe 1 year, and this might not seem like a lot, but I made maybe just a couple thousand, like 3, 4, 5,000.
Right. So in 2 years of work, 3 to 5,000.
Yeah.
Right. So all of you young hustler entrepreneurs out there who are listening to this and think it's going to take 6 months, think it's going to take 12. I'm installing a new rule into the entrepreneur mindset. Go into any business thinking it's going to take 5 to 7. Not saying that it will, but go into it with that patient mindset, because what happens? We expect to make money day 31, and day 31 rolls around and we're broke as fuck still. That plays with your head. So go into it with the perception that it's going to take longer than it probably will, because that's actually going to long term set you up for more success.
Definitely. I completely agree with that.
I like to say I waited 7 years for my first paycheck.
Wow.
Now, I've been strategic. I've always had consults. I've always had connections or contracts in place in other businesses that have allowed me to still do what I do. But from my businesses, it's taken 7 years of being in business before I wrote a check.
Before I continue, I was just curious, what inspired you to start this show?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm tired of loss. And this is why I say that. So being in the music industry primarily, musicians and a lot of the musicians I grew up listening to, for instance, Chris Cornell, Chester Bennington, Scott Hutchinson, they were gone too soon. One little quick housekeeping thing. Can you turn the volume on your phone back? I'm getting down. I'm getting a little bit of feedback.
Should I turn it down?
Yeah, just because I'm hearing myself.
Okay, perfect.
As long as you can still hear me, we're good.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. We live in a world today where it's not okay to talk about how we feel. Because if we talk about how we feel, especially as men, we get perceived as weak, rather than knowing that it actually takes more strength than any human could have possibly imagined to say, I'm struggling, I'm hurting, I feel broken, any of those things. It takes so much power to say it. I've had so many friends over the years, even not even the musicians that I idolized, but so many friends over the years who I've had to talk off the ledge. I remember standing outside in one February night, talking a dear friend of mine, literally out of killing herself. And it wasn't me talking her out of it per se. It was me listening to her and and validating that how she was feeling was okay, but also identifying the fact that she wasn't alone. And I remember my own struggles with depression, my own struggles with suicide, and feeling like I was so alone because nobody could possibly know how an angsty 17-year-old kid could feel. Because I had experienced heartbreak, my grandma died, and I whatever other excuse. To the point where if I had just been able to talk about it, I wouldn't have buried a blade in my wrist. If I had been able to talk about it, or if Chester Bennington could have come out and said, "Hey guys, I'm hurting. I need your help," he might still be here today. But yeah, we as a society are chastising vulnerability when we should be openly accepting it. Because when we openly accept one's vulnerability, it actually allows them to grow and become stronger, and us as a community to grow and become stronger. And I'm tired of seeing the world hurt, especially when something is so simple as allowing a conversation to happen. Like Rowan pointed this out in our episode in last season of the show. When was the last time you just sat down and talked with a friend for an hour? We're talking, we're friends. I mean, we're having a conversation. We just happen to be broadcasting it and recording it.
Yeah.
But when was the last time you sat and talked to a chum for an hour? Without being like this, or anything else along those lines. Like we're so focused on this, and all these notifications that I have to come back to, that we get distracted from the realness of the situation, which is, hey, I'm hurting, I need help.
Yeah.
And so my reason for starting this was, all right, I want to be a voice for those people whose voices are too quiet. I want to allow them to create safe spaces in their own communities and inside of their own culture for vulnerability to be accepted. And especially being a guy, thankfully I was raised in a very empathetic house and was told that it was okay to show emotion and live in that. But a lot of people weren't. A lot of guys weren't. And honestly, that's why a lot of men struggle with eating disorders. That's why a lot of men struggle with suicide and alcoholism and all of this, because we were raised that we've got to be strong all the time, because if we're not, if we blink once, all of a sudden we're not a man anymore.
Yeah.
And I want to break that. I want to break the stigma so that my kids understand and know it's okay.
Yeah.
And they can create change and continue to consume and create positivity, because it's in positivity and openness and creating safe places that the world becomes better, right? Look at Switzerland, right? The Swiss culture is one of neutrality, is one of no war, is one of peace. And look, that country is one of the best countries in the world right now, right? Not dealing with the economic struggles, thriving art communities, thriving education. Why? Because they're allowing themselves to be vulnerable, yet standing up for themselves inside of that vulnerability.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was just one example out of a litany of ones that exist. I mean, I'm proud to be an American, but I'm not for the current state that we're in. I'm proud for the fact that we have a platform and can speak like this to the world and have conversations because of this technology.
Yeah.
But we need to be utilizing these tools, social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, blogs, wherever, to be spreading positivity and light. Because if we're not doing that, the only thing that we're doing is perpetuating the darkness. And that's why I'm moving so constantly and so rapidly, is because I'm constantly trying to avoid the darkness. Because the darkness for me is an unsafe place. That's where all of the old me lives. The alcoholism, the self-deprecating behavior, the doubt, the fear, every negative adjective you could possibly imagine of me lives in the dark. And if I slow down, the darkness catches.
I can relate to that.
So like, that's why I move. That's why I'm doing 80 million things at any given time, because those 80 million things that I'm constantly striving for keep me away from dark.
I completely relate to that.
So yeah, that's my inspiration. I want to wake up. I want my kids to wake up in a culture and a world where we can be open, where we can have a conversation, and where we can get help, and where help is readily available to anybody who needs it. Because that's the other problem in the mental health sphere is there's so much information because of Google that even when you want to seek help, you get information overload, and that stresses you out because you're already anxious, you're already struggling, and being on information overload makes it worse. So then you're like, fuck it, I'm done. Like, it's asinine, the fact that we have so much available to us. Yet because of the fact that we have so much available to us, we fear it because we don't know where to go. So one of the things that Rowan and I'm going to challenge the rest of this amazing collective of human beings to work on is, let's get this global resource list going, and let's get it going so it's ready January 1, so that no matter where you are in the world, you can find help from one simple space. You go to it's an app, it's a fucking PDF that I make available to the world that you just download. And all of a sudden you scroll and you find where I'm in Turkey and I'm struggling with an eating disorder. Boom, resource. Rather than Google, where you type in eating disorder Turkey and all of a sudden you get 80 million things that you don't need and one buried at the bottom of those 80 million. That's phase 2 of the Open Heart Collective. Anyways, so let's dive back into you. So you were saying this had resonance with your story. Tell me about that a little bit more.
I mean, I feel blessed to be on your show, to be honest. It's a real inspiring message that you're spreading across the world. So, like, I feel blessed to be here. And I completely understand and relate to what you said about kind of running from the darkness, doing so much to stay ahead, to not be back there.
Right.
Because I'm the same in that sense. It's why even now I have my own restaurant, I have my own film production company, I have my own property business where I lease out properties. But deep down, I'm afraid of being back in a depressed, negative, sad state.
Right.
And there is a fear within inside me. So, like, in my external image that people see on social media or my friends, that they're like, Hayden, you've done so well at a young age. But
how old are you, by the way?
I'm 26.
Man.
And
I didn't start my first business until I was 27.
What were you doing before?
I had worked in companies. Actually, directly before I started the record label, I was working as an investment consultant. Literal suit and tie, like professional 9 to 5 job. Well, it was more like 9 to 9 because that's the shit that they don't talk about in financial world.
Wow.
Is what happens after 5 o'clock. But yeah, so I worked an entire lifetime before I started what I've started now.
I mean, you must have developed a ton of skills and experience from your job prior to
Mostly, in all of my previous employment, I mostly learned what not to do.
Wow.
When running my own. So that's why inside of the culture of what I'm building, I'm very focused on empathy. I'm very focused on creating culture and an environment where people are excited to be a part of it. Rather than you coming to me and say, hey, I need a job. And I'm like, I go and I take you as a cog and I plug you into the gear. And all of a sudden you're running, but you're really not happy because you're not doing what you want to do and you're not doing what excites you. So therefore you actually start to like, what's the word I'm looking for? Hold resentment towards me. And then that's why we keep going into workplace community, or cultures. oftentimes regret and resentment forms because people are forced to go into a space where they're not comfortable, where it works for the bottom line of the company, but it doesn't work for them as a human being. But we sacrifice us as a human being because it gets us the paycheck and it gets us the bottom line and it gets us the bonus and the corner office and the Ferrari and all of that other shit. But it's not worth it. So building it around, and I can see this in your content all the time, is like you're really heavily focused on building people up and having that culture be positive. And I mean, I pay attention. I've looked at your restaurant. I've looked at what you do. I mean, which is another reason why we're having this conversation, because like I like what you do and I want to learn more. So, I mean,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
But it's like, so, I mean, if one of your employees tomorrow came at your restaurant and said, man, I really don't like working this grill. I'd rather be up front selling the product. Do what you as the business owner, that guy might be affecting your bottom dollar by making that switch. Do you go for your bottom dollar or do you go for what he wants? Like that, and that's where the entrepreneurial struggle happens, because all of a sudden now we're faced with a choice. It affects our bottom line or it affects an employee happiness and employee morale. What do you do? Go.
Right. Yeah, I understand. So, with regard, like quite specifically with regards to the restaurant, with that context, I train the staff to be able to do every role within the restaurant.
Right.
So
unilateral training is a given, but I'm saying that guy that you trained that's running the grill now doesn't want to do it. But he wants to be up front doing the cashier stuff or selling or like being out in the world networking for the business. Like what's that look like for you? How's that decision made?
I think I'd give them an opportunity to prove themselves and how much they can bring to the company by going down that path that they'd like to.
Right.
I'm very giving with opportunities, and I like giving people a chance. And honestly, like I want people to succeed.
Right.
So if I give someone a chance, like I'm actually rooting for them.
Absolutely.
And then, I mean, if sometimes they do come short, there's no hard feelings. They can revert back to the original role. But I do honestly like giving people a chance, and I do root for people. It's just
right.
within my nature.
I'm going to challenge you to take that one step further. And this is what I do. And this is, I mean, it's not really pertaining to mental health, although it is, because it's employee morale and employee mental health. And I love asking this question when I'm sitting in front of an intern or having a potential employee call. And I say, what do you guys want to do? What's most exciting to you about what we do? And how do you think you can make it better? Because when I ask that question, all of a sudden now they're like, wow, he actually wants to know what I'm excited about. Because when he knows what I'm excited about, then he's able to build some. I would rather craft out a position around somebody's skill set than plug them into something that fits already.
Right, yeah.
So, I mean, in those moments, in the next interviews that you have, is say, all right, what do you guys want to do? And just see what happens. You'll watch people's faces light up. And guess what? You're going to get more powerful, more productive people from doing that.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I'm going through a recruitment process literally right now. So I can't wait to drop that question.
And it might, hey, and I'm not saying it's going to work for you. It works for me because I'm in a creative sphere, right? I'm looking at people who can do content creation. Or I'm looking at people who can help manage bands or develop websites or anything along those lines across my many verticals. And I can openly say, all right, guys, what's exciting to you? And they can pluck out certain aspects and then I can put them there because that's what they want to do. Now, restaurants, property management could be a little bit different of an atmosphere, but I'm excited to hear the outcome of this because the only thing it's going to do, whether it works or doesn't work, will strengthen your culture
Yeah.
and will actually enhance the community. Maybe not a lot, but even if the dial's a little bit more, it'll work.
I will ask that question in the recruitment. It'll be quite interesting and it'll be quite funny too.
Yeah, you guys know what we do. All right, tell me what you want to do.
Yeah, I will say.
Even if it doesn't work, man, I will be so thrilled to hear the response. Because it comes down to it comes down to the human desire to be heard, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, these guys want to know what we do or what we want to do. Oh man, he's accomplished. Duh, I'm only down here. Why is he asking me what I want to do? He should tell me what I want. He wants me to do because he's up here and I want to get up here with him. It's backwards. It's all backwards. Because the only way that we got to where we are as leaders is figuring out what works best for us and fucking running with it. That's it. I mean, am I wrong?
I feel like there's been a lot of trial and error.
Absolutely.
And a lot of failures that literally acted as stepping stones to get to a place of any success.
Right. Climbing a mountain takes a lot of work.
It does. It does. Do you know my younger brother? He climbs a mountain every Saturday. So tomorrow, him and his friends are climbing a mountain in Wales.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I want to connect when I come over there. Him and I are going to go rock climbing.
That'd be incredible.
I love that. I used to train it.
Wow.
Anyways, we've kind of gotten off subject, but only a little bit though, because all of this pertains to mental health.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing. All right, guys. So if you've made it this far in the episode and you're like, oh man, they've kind of really gone off. I want to bring it back. And this is how I bring it back. So we want to talk about making access to mental health resources accessible, right? We want to make it really easy for you to get the answers that you need. Or even if you're not getting the answers that you need, to somebody to listen to your problem. Because even if that listening only substantiates the pain for that day, at least allowing yourself to get it off your shoulders helps. So this is what I've done in order to help with that. I literally have made myself so readily available that you can call me on this thing right here. All you have to do is go to my Instagram page and hit the call button. That doesn't ring an assistant. That doesn't ring an office person. That rings this thing right here. Give me a call. If you're struggling, give me a call. And if I can't help you, I will gladly work towards pointing you guys in the direction to allow you to find the help that you need. Because maybe I'm not the resource, but I am a person to listen. And oftentimes when you're struggling with mental health, you don't want somebody, or with depression or anxiety or an eating disorder or alcoholism or drug abuse, whatever the case may be, you don't want somebody to tell you what to do. You want somebody to listen to what you're going through. I've made that available. Now, we'll see how many people take me up on it. Maybe a lot of people after this episode. We'll see. But it's because I know that when I was struggling, I would have loved to just have somebody to talk to. And granted, guys, my time, like Hayden's time, is incredibly valuable. But that's how much your guys' time and what you have, how long you're on this earth, matters to me. All right, over and above that, if you guys are struggling, though, I can help. We can help point you towards the direction of getting help. I'm working on partnering up with a lot of amazing organizations in helping to kind of spread this message around breaking the stigma, and it will happen. This is going to be a bit of a surprise, although not really if you watched or listened to Tuesday's episode. On Tuesday, I had Miriam from Arrow Mental Health on the show. A little bit of a last-minute switcheroo, but it's okay. Miriam has this incredible product called Arrow, of which we're going to be working on a US and inevitably a UK launch for. But Arrow is something that you guys will hear me talk about a lot on the show, not because I'm trying to do product placement or for any other reason, the fact that I know it's going to help you. So I'm going to say, and this will be a bit of a surprise to Marion because I actually haven't even told her this. I'm going to say for the remainder of this year and even potentially moving into next year that this show is going to be sponsored by Arrow. I'm not getting, there's no money, there's no financial transaction other than the fact that they're sending me the wearable technology. But this show is incredibly important because what it does is it allows us to share. And when we can create a culture around sharing, we can create what ends up happening is we create a culture of acceptance and we create a culture of people wanting to make the world a better place. So that being said, and I mentioned this in the other episodes, and I'm going to mention in every episode moving forward, the audio end of this content series and the platform that I hosted on, which is an amazing platform called Anchor, allows us now to have supporters for the content creators, right? So monthly subscriptions similar to Patreon. I'm not asking for you guys to donate or support the content for me. I'm not taking any money from this whatsoever. I have no intention of ever doing so. But what we have a great way or a great ability in front of us to take care or to do is to support the organizations who are making changes and impacts in the field of mental health. So for any and every dollar that comes in to support this show on the audio end of it, I'm literally going to funnel that money right back out to mental health organizations around the world. So we have the ability to help in the mental health field twofold because we are perpetuating a culture of openness and vulnerability and allowing stories to be shared. And we can help the organizations who are actually putting the fight out there to change it and to make positive impact around the world. I'm not just talking the US, I'm not just talking the UK. I'm talking everywhere where there's a mental health organization, inevitably over the time of this show, will inevitably receive money from the show. All right, I'm down off the proverbial high horse now. So you were going through all of what you've gone through. What was your one thing that you always did that allowed you to get out of the dark?
There's a real cool method that I use, and everybody else can use it because I really feel like it can benefit you too. For me, I am most productive and I feel most powerful within myself when I'm in an optimistic frame of mind, when I feel positive. So when I'm in a dark place or I do feel depressed, I've found that counting up to 20 things I'm grateful for seems to shift my negative state of mind towards
I love it.
A more optimistic frame of mind. And it's important to think of it metaphorically. So if you're in a negative space, the train that will take you to a positive place is gratitude. So
amen to that, my friend.
So if you can list 20 things within your mind, even write them down, even tell someone.
I recommend writing them down.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way of doing it. Even if you're so depressed, it's so difficult to think of a positive thing. It's important to get those numbers all the way up to 20 things you're grateful for, to shift your negative mind state into a positive frame of mind. And I feel like it's something that's healthy to do on a day-to-day basis. I feel like mental health, if we practice gratitude, it can keep us a little bit more optimistic from day to day. So that's the one major thing that helps me every day. There's times when I do feel down, sad, depressed. It's
right.
natural, and
it's gonna happen, guys.
For me to get into that optimistic place, I do have to note down things I'm grateful for, and sometimes I feel so low that while I'm saying them, I don't even feel better. But as you get closer to the number 20, you do slowly start to shift, and if you can maintain that day to day, um, you'll find that you're happier more consistently. And I think that's the one main method that I use. Um,
I love
there's a
it.
lot of various methods, but I think that's the most powerful one for me.
And everything is person to person. What works for me might not work for you, but what works for you might work for someone else, or might not. But at least, let's say they can't get to 20, but they can get to 10, and that 10 makes them feel better. Cool. You don't
Yeah.
need to do 20. Do it to the point where you start to focus and turn your mindset to that positive. Because when you do that, that's where the real magic happens, guys. Because, I mean, there's a lot of sadness in the world. There's a lot of darkness in the world. Show gratitude. Gratitude. It's another reason why we do live. You catch all my mistakes. I am so grateful for the fact that I get to do this, and I get to. I mean, I work my ass off every single day, but the fact of the matter is I get to do what I love every single day,
It's
and I get to
amazing.
have twice a week. I get to have amazing conversations with incredible human beings like you, and then I have the recourse of what happens after these conversations air and the messages. And a few weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago now, I got a message from somebody after an episode, and if for no other reason than that one message, I'm going to continue to do this show. The message was from somebody who was watching on Instagram. In fact, I felt like you were talking directly to me.
Wow.
We had hundreds of people viewing, but she's like, I thought you were talking directly to me.
Wow.
And that's it. That's the reason why I do this every week. Although not every week because I've been super consistent with it because of travel and work and family and all that. But and because this is a really rigorous schedule, guys. Like I'm doing 70 to 80 hours a week on top of this show. And it's an hour on Tuesday and it's an hour on Friday, plus it's 3 to 4 hours of post and upload and all that stuff on Sunday. Like this is work. But this is time that I'm willing to invest because this conversation and this needs to move forward because that's the only way that we're going to change it. And we're not going to lose the people that we look up to. We're not going to see tragedies that could have been prevented if there was rightful or if there was right pieces in place to help people struggling. Like we wouldn't see as many, and I'm being rather pragmatic here, but we wouldn't see as many school shootings. We wouldn't see as much tragedy in the world if we were more focused on actually addressing mental health. I honestly think across the world, it's our biggest public health concern, regardless of where you are, is the lack of access to things for mental health. Or not the fact of lack of access, lack of direct access to what you're struggling with in your own mental health. Let's fix it. But we're not going to fix it alone. We're going to fix it by coming together. We're going to fix it by making our voices one. Because my voice is pretty loud. Hayden, your voice is pretty loud. But when we get your voice and my voice and 100 million other voices together, all of a sudden the problem can no longer be ignored. And that's where the real change happens. So, yeah. I keep getting off on these high horses. I'm sorry.
No, it's cool. It's cool. I love hearing that.
But we're getting to the point in the episode where I want to know what's exciting for Hayden right now, because obviously we talked about the struggle, we talked about how we came out of it. Now we want to talk about the cool shit. What's going on right now that's really exciting in your world?
I've been acting since childhood, and you know, more recently I've gotten into production. So I've started my film production company. So I'm still auditioning and my agent's putting me up for acting roles. But for the first time, I'm venturing outside just the realm of acting, and I'm screenwriting, producing, directing, and I'm working on my own cartoon movie right now. I
Nice.
can't say too much about it right now, but it is super
I
exciting.
understand NDAs and all. I get it, my man. You're good.
So we're going to be pitching it to Netflix and Amazon. So it's really, really exciting. And another thing, how screenwriting for me can tie into mental health. this cartoon is very fantasy related, and it helps me by writing. It helps me escape reality and create just an amazing cartoon. And I just hope that when it's released, the people watching, they can escape reality too by tuning into
Right.
this fantasy cartoon. So that's the
Well,
most exciting thing I'm up to at the moment.
incredible, my friend. All right. So if somebody wanted to find you or get in contact with you, what's the best platform for them to find you on?
Instagram's probably the best platform to find me on. It's at Hayden Hayder _. I'm on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter.
And I'll include your links below. I just want people, if they want to go to that one spot, right? Because
Yeah.
we don't want to give them too many options. If they want to go to that one spot to find you, that's the one.
Yeah, I think Instagram's the best place to reach out. I respond to every message, so feel free to drop me a message. And yeah, I look forward to hearing from you.
Awesome, my friends. All right. So if you're new to this, you might not know what I'm about to do, but I like to end every episode like I do, whether it's my vlog or this or anything else, with a bit of an affirmation, right? Because again, we're in this busy world doing a lot of things all at once. So we need to occasionally refocus. This is a moment to refocus. So I like to say these things. Be happy, number one. Have fun, number two. Number three, hustle. But keep in mind, there's no amount of hustle that can bring you happiness or fun, right? So you have to have happiness and fun first. Then, and this is probably the most important part about all of it, make sure you take time to breathe. Even if that is just saying the word breathe once a day, saying the word breathe forces you to breathe. Which is why breathe is one of my favorite words in the English language, because it actually forces breath out of you when you say it. So make sure you guys take time to breathe. Join me again next week, Tuesday and Friday, as we will be, I don't know who my guests are. I won't announce those until Monday, but I'm working on some incredible guests as well. And then all of this episode, or these episodes from this week, will be available Sunday on YouTube and all audio streaming platforms. Excuse me. And if you feel like contributing to this podcast and supporting mental health organizations around the world, please go to anchor.fm/Phillip Ryan Block, and or actually I'll send the links out to everybody. But find the podcast on Anchor and hit support. Any and every, like I said, any and every dollar amount that comes in is going right back out to a mental health organization somewhere around the world, maybe in the hometown of whomever it is that donates in, because that's how we're going to make change, guys. And until next time, have a great weekend, everybody. And us here in the States, it's Labor Day, so great long weekend. And we'll see you guys again soon. Bye, everyone.